Chinese martial arts have emphasized the accumulation, operation, and use of internal forces in the body since ancient times. The so-called qi meridians, qi shen dantian, da zhou tian, and shao zhou tian are all based on this theory. The overall logic of Reiki is similar to the internal force. The most obvious difference is that in addition to its own accumulation, operation, and use, Reiki also has an ability that can be released outside. No matter how strong the internal strength is, it can only rely on one's own body. A good internal master can kill a heavy cow with one punch, or even an elephant with one punch. But even so, he couldn't achieve the ability to kill a mouse in the air. The reason is that the internal force cannot be released outside. After all, the internal force is actually an entry-level low-end version of Reiki. And the spiritual energy is 1,000 miles higher than the internal force. The difference between the two is like the difference between primates and humans. Although the DNA of primates and humans has almost 99% similarity, the gap between the two is still a difference between heaven and earth. No matter how smart a chimpanzee is, it cannot become a human being. Between the two, there is an insurmountable gap. Among Chinese martial arts practitioners, there are at least tens of thousands of people who can master internal qi. However, among these tens of thousands of people, almost none of them can train their internal qi into the aura. If Charlie hadn't had the help of the 9 profound heavenly scriptures, and the earlier piece of spiritual stone, even if he took a lot of rejuvenating pill, he would not be able to form aura in his body. This is a real great opportunity, an opportunity that ordinary people cannot get in a few lifetimes. Charlie naturally couldn't tell Ruoli the actual situation, but the light of the fireflies and the brilliance of the sun and the moon had already shocked Ruoli deep in her heart. She murmured in her heart, "It turns out that his internal strength has reached a higher level. No wonder his strength is so perverted, and he can easily save my life, which is better than the martial art I know." "This is so powerful," Charlie said calmly at this time. "Although the toxins in your body have been removed, your wound is still open. I will help you pull out the crossbow arrow, and then help you clean up the wound." Ruoli looked at the wound on her leg. The crossbow arrow almost penetrated the entire thigh from the base of the thigh. She couldn't help but secretly said in shame, "I am still wearing black tights, but if I want him to help me deal with the wound, he must take off or tear my pants off, But this part is indeed a bit too private." Seeing that Ruoli was more or less embarrassed, Charlie's first thought was, "Otherwise, just let her handle it. She is a professionally trained killer who must be very good at dealing with such small wounds." However, another thought popped into his mind. This woman's character is as strong as an untamed wild horse, and her methods are vicious and cruel. For such a woman, I want her to be honest from tonight. To be submissive, you must first completely wipe out her self-esteem. Thinking of this, Charlie said with a cold expression, "Come on, I will help you sit on a single recliner, you lie on it, and I will help you deal with the wound." Ruoli vaguely said, I'll do it myself. Please give me a pair of pliers, and some debridement potion and gauze for dressing." "It'll all be fine," Charlie said blankly. "It's not impossible for you to deal with it yourself, but the legs are rich in blood vessels. When the crossbow arrow is taken out, the wound will bleed heavily. If the wound has injured the artery, once you rush the crossbow arrow, if it comes out and the wound opens, your life will be in danger, and if you hurt your nerves, you may be disabled in the future." Ruoli also knew very well that it would be no problem to deal with ordinary wounds by herself, but if it really hurts the arteries, it would be really difficult to get started. Moreover, if you hurt your nerves, it will indeed leave certain sequelae. Once there are sequelae, your strength will definitely be affected. Thinking of this, Ruoli's heart suddenly hesitated, not knowing whether to let Charlie help. After all, Charlie is a master whose strength is far surpassing hers. If he handles her injuries, it must be much more reliable than handling her own injuries. Seeing her struggling expression, Charlie said categorically, "Okay, don't rush. Life is more important than anything else, and I believe you don't want your legs to be disabled. Otherwise, a little beauty would walk on a slope. That's too ugly." After that, he has stretched out his hand to Ruoli, and said without a doubt, Come on, I will help you to the recliner. Seeing Charlie's uncompromising posture, Ruoli suddenly felt a little embarrassed deep in her heart, and said in a low voice, I can do it myself. After that, she wanted to support herself with both hands, but after a few tries, she found that her arms simply couldn't help her. Seeing that she had nothing to do, Charlie said calmly, Don't bother, your meridians have been temporarily sealed by me, and your body can't use strength. Ruoli was a little shocked, so she handed her hand to Charlie obediently, and whispered, Then I will trouble you. Charlie stretched out his hand to hold her soft and cold little hand, and then directly supported her up. It was the first time that Ruoli was held in this way by a man, and her heart beat like a drum. She grew up with her mother. She has always practiced martial arts hard, not to mention falling in love, and she has no chance to get along with boys. Suddenly he was holding her hand so intimately, and he panicked unconsciously. Charlie helped her onto the recliner and let her lie on it gently, then locked the swing function of the recliner, and said to her, I will cut off your trouser legs first. As soon as Ruoli heard this, her face flushed with shame, and she asked him desperately, Does he really want to cut the pants? In that case, wouldn't the entire thigh be exposed to him? Just when Ruoli was still unable to accept Charlie's decision for a while, he had already picked up a pair of scissors, followed the position where the crossbow arrow was shot, upwards a few centimeters, and cut Ruoli's entire trouser. Ruoli only felt a sudden cold in her right leg, and when she looked down, her slender leg was completely exposed to the air, and she immediately covered her face shyly. Charlie didn't expect that Ruoli's legs would be so beautiful, even far surpassing all the women he knew. This may have a lot to do with her martial arts training since childhood. Her legs are not only slender, but also very straight, and even with faint muscle lines. Compared with those supermodels, it is not less than that, and even better. It is definitely the best leg in a million. Seeing Charlie staring at her leg motionless, Ruoli felt embarrassed in her heart. She felt that although this man was very strong, he seemed to have nothing different from those squint men. The difference was not that much. So she asked a little bit angrily, What are you looking at? Charlie raised his head, smiled indifferently, and said calmly, I'm looking at your legs are very beautiful.